It's part two of our conversation with the great Andy Curran. I'm John Beaudin from Rock History Canada. There's some great re-releases and new releases from Coney Hatch and Andy Curran as a solo artist. His Caramel project from 1998 is now available digitally. Leisure World from 2002 as well, and his self-titled album. That was from 1991. A lot of you probably know he was the A&R person for Anthem Records, and he worked with Rush quite a bit, and a lot of other bands. And Coney Hatch have just released Live at the El Macombo. Here's Andy Curran.
Would you tell him, the younger Andy Curran, anything going into, like, for instance, the first when Coney Hatch was forming, you put that together, would you tell him anything? I mean, there's two ways of looking at it, right? There's one way of going, well, if I did, we wouldn't be talking right now, and who knows where I
Right. Yeah.
But the other side of it.
That's an awesome question. And I often, listen, all due respect to the people that were involved as our day-to-day management team, I look back at some of the decisions that we made in Coney Hatch, and I can only chalk them up to being young, inexperienced, honestly, and I mean, I'm stripping this down. Yes, we spent a lot of time on if you want to call it our art and making those records and songwriting and everything. But the minute we made those things, I was just like a dumb 19, 20-year-old teenager going, okay, where are we playing? Where's the next party? And do I have enough money, to just be comfortable, right? As opposed to answer your question, what would I have done? I would have paid a lot more attention to the management of our money, to the decisions that were being made. But we were all 20.
You don't know what you don't know. That's the thing.
Right. And I think about, and if you said, Andy, give me an example, I'll give you a perfect example, because we thought it was the thing to do. At the time when Coney Hatch got signed, you got 4 guys in the band who spent a ton of time, 2 years, almost like literally every day touring and being in towns like Kirkland Lake and Sudbury and Kapuskasing and Quebec and all the way out, and playing there for a week and having a very Spartan budget, going, okay, we got 4 guys in the band, 2 guys in the road crew, a truck for the gear, and a van for the band. The minute we got signed, because we thought it was the thing to do, next thing you know, we had 2 guitar techs, a monitor guy, a road manager, a light man, a sound guy. We got talked into buying a 5-ton truck. And then when you look at all that money, and then you go, well, wait a second, I'm only making $250 a week. And people have this perception that you're out on the road and you're signed and you're touring with Judas Priest. And I look back on that and go, oh my God, we were idiots. Why did we listen to, if I wish I had a little bit more common sense, we literally had 8 men on our road crew, which was insane for a band at our level. One other interesting story about what would you change. So for some reason, after we did our first album, we were advised that we had outgrown Kim Mitchell and we needed a real producer, like somebody who and Kim did a fantastic job, and he produced Max Webster. I don't know why we ever even went along with that. We should have. It broke the mold. And we ended up working with a guy by the name of Max Norman, and Max had some great success. He produced Ozzy Osbourne's, all the big records with Randy Rhoads, and he had worked with Bad Company and a bunch of other. So this guy was a legitimate A-list guy. And so he flew into Toronto and we hit it off with them. And again, you're young, you're naive, your label tells you you need a producer. So we go, okay, I guess that's the next step. We should have stood up for Kim and said, no way. Kim's our guy. He basically discovered us, and we didn't. And I remember working on one of our records with Max, and he was mixing because he's a good mixing engineer. And he's a British guy, and he turned around and he said, yeah, lads, what do you think of that mix? What do you think? And he was like smoking a joint and leaning back. And I said, Max, I can't hear the bass. I can't hear the bass on that.
As the bass player.
As the bass player, right? Which is a fair comment. Usually everybody, and being young, you're like, can I hear my instrument? Can I hear my voice? You're not really thinking about the big picture, right? So very aggressively, he turned around and said to him, got in my face, he said, mate, you better decide whether you want a hit record or whether you want to hear your bass. And so I thought, okay, well, that's an easy choice. I'll take hit record, right? And I backed right down, but it was a crock. I should have just said to him, what are you talking about? Doesn't matter. Like how many, anyway, young, naive, inexperienced, should have stepped up, should have called him on it, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Those were all great learning experiences. And the more producers that I worked with, I took a bit from that guy that I liked and a bit from this person and then that kind of formulated, how I like to work in the studio. But a lot of it I chalk up to just youth and inexperience, John.
And whenever I talk to someone, they've got, I'm 61, they've got usually 10 years on me, and they're all these old rockers that we all grew up with. And all of them wake up at like 6 to 9 o'clock in the morning. And it's interesting. I don't know if you've seen that with the people that you've worked with, but a lot of them say, well, who was it? Steve Hackett from the Genesis days, the early Genesis days. I said, wait a minute. I just figured out it's like 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock where you're at right now.
Yeah.
And he says, oh my God, we can't do that anymore. He says, you finding that in rock and roll or even for yourself?
Yeah. Well,
I'm watching the clock. I'm watching the clock now.
Well, as one of my friends so eloquently put it, we've got more years behind us potentially than we do in front, right? And sometimes, sadly, I lost my mom and dad a couple, within the last 2 to 4 years. And then you start looking at yourself and you go, well, wait a sec. Like you said, we're getting in our 50s and 60s and everything. And the better part of our lives are behind us. Not the better part, but I'm just talking about years. Like there's still great things that are going to happen to all of us. But you start thinking about your immortality and stuff like that. And I've lost a few very dear friends recently in the music world. And some heroes too. Tom Petty comes to mind. I was like really, really upset when Tom passed away. I'd never met him, but I bought every one of his records. And that one was one that really hit me like, oh my God, like one of my favorite all-time musicians is gone. But on a more personal note, Jerry McGee, the lead vocalist of a band called Brighton Rock. And Jerry and I became really, really close friends. And he's younger than me. And to see a guy pass away that early, and as you said, and we're losing all these great people around us, it makes you think, okay, well, it certainly tweaked me to go, make good use of your time while you're here, Curran. Love and respect the people around you. We never know when our card's going to get pulled. And it made me look back on the Coney Hatch days and my different bands and go, oh my God, man, how lucky have I been? Like I've been hit by lightning so many times where I think I've got guardian angels upstairs. Like, cause a lot of the stuff that's happened to me is I have to pinch myself and go, how did I make it here? And to give you an example, how did I go from playing in the Gasworks and the Nob Hill and Tony's East and Tony's West to being on stage at Maple Leaf Gardens twice in 1 year, once with Judas Priest and the other one with Saga and Kim Mitchell, or to be on tour with Iron Maiden and Crocus and open for some of my heroes like Peter Frampton and Edgar Winter and Ted Nugent at Cheap Trick. I'm just like, what? How did this happen to me? And a lot of it, I just think is luck and being in the right place and the right time. Sure, you have to have a certain amount of talent to be involved with people like Ray Daniels or to have somebody like Kim Mitchell say, I want to produce your record. But my God, I look back on the ride and those formative years with Coney Hatch and having to be out there and play, all the time. I think it helped me get to the level where I eventually did get a worldwide deal with Geffen and have amazing touring opportunities. So I consider myself very, very lucky.
We'll have more from Andy Curran coming up in the next few days. Make sure you comment on our videos, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. I'm John Beaudin. This is Rock History Canada.